What's up, traders? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com, and in tonight's free video, I'm going to break down a day trade in which a swing trade in which I currently have on here in Apple that I put on today, and a recap of Friday's trades from there as well. And then I really want to break down just the SPY, the QQQ, IWM, and DIA, and just the overall price action from today and kind of where that leaves us here, and a couple things with some higher time frame charts to be aware of. So to kick it off here, in Apple today, I picked up the 180 calls here, and I paid 70 cents for those. They closed at $1.23. So we're up like 53 cents on those currently at the moment. Now, with this trade in Apple here, it's a second day earnings move. So if you guys have been around for a while, second day earnings moves are really nice. Markets can pick a direction that first day after earnings, if it's a change of trend type of gap, and then that second day earnings move can be really nice, just continuation of that first initial move. And that's basically what we had here today in Apple. So Apple gapped down last Friday here, and we took a trade on that. It was a complete lotto on the 180 calls for last week, and we paid 3 cents for those. And the thinking behind that is like, hey, if we could break up through 176.77s, then, we've got room up here to 182.28. And, up there around 182.28 is actually where we spiked over here on the 5-minute chart. You can see 181.90s in the after hours when earnings came out, right? So the thinking is, hey, eventually we're going to come back up, test this level. We actually do have a level right there at 182.28, and that would make, sense. So Friday, we picked up that position. Obviously, we didn't make that full move on Friday. We lost that 3 cents per contract. And then today, right out of the gate here, first thing this morning, as soon as we got above these levels of 176.77, it's like, okay, cool, this thing can probably move. Second day earnings move, all the things, right? So with this one, we were able to pick that up. And I didn't take it until this bar right here. So I let us get up through 176.77. You can see we came down 177.76. Next bar came down, traded 176.77s literally to the tick. And then as soon as we started crossing kind of back up through this 177 area here, I went ahead and used that as my trigger into this trade and put it on for a potential swing here up into that 182.28. So hopefully that breaks down the Apple trade pretty decently there. And what my plans are for this one, obviously, unless we get a big gap to the downside here, I would like a small consolidation day tomorrow, somewhere around 179.5. Maybe it trades 180.5. Maybe it trades 178.5. Excuse me, give or take $1 there one way. I would like to see that for tomorrow, right? If I'm able to ask for what I want here. But moving on from that, taking a look at SPY here. SPY, we got a couple levels in place at the moment. So 433 is going to be a big one so far. That has held us literally by a penny last Friday on the gap up. And we're unable to come back down and trade this just yet here today. And there ends up being a divergence down here today. So if we pull this over, you guys can see, whoa, there we go. We pull this over, you can see here's that divergence right there coming out of 215 here. So everything comes down and is setting a higher low here, but the Dow actually comes down, makes new lows on the day. That gives us our divergence right into this 1738.70 level here for the Russell, which we were talking about for today. And it ends up giving us that bounce towards the end of the day. And it's that bounce towards the end of the day that really kind of shifted these charts here, because before 2 o'clock, this was looking like, hey, this maybe wants to, potentially push a little bit lower here until we got that divergence. And then that divergence basically sending us back here to unchanged on the day, meaning from the opening print, not necessarily unchanged from, Friday's close here. That for me is, it leaves a lot of unanswered questions here in terms of like, well, now we need more data, because all we've done here essentially over the last 6 days is rally, tried to pull back one day, and then rallied that right back. So we're in this really interesting position where I think the markets, yes, do need a pullback here, and I think a lot of people are looking at that after the move from last week. But I think we have to try and probably push higher first before we get that pullback. And that's actually what I wrote this morning, and it's kind of it's interesting here that my thinking is still very much the same thing after today's action. But had I checked in and made a video update throughout the day, which I might do sometime, just kind of hey, here's where we're at, here's my thoughts, and then come back in an hour, pick that up, see where we're at. It's a good idea. But had I come back at 2 o'clock here, minus the divergence there, my thinking would have been, okay, cool, we got a little bit more of a pullback here to go. So I think it's interesting here that all of the markets, and I'm getting to my point here, all of the markets here, with the exception of the IWM, have that same look. Well, IWM actually ends up working into the gap from Friday in here, and it has some room to go. So with this one, I like right now, I think there's a really good opportunity where, hey, S&P's, NASDAQ, those markets tomorrow might try and push higher, and this is the trade idea in which I have. And if we can do that and we can find some resistance there and it traps in some new longs, and from there we then start to get that pullback, I think where we're going to see that come through first, and a little bit of a hint to that is going to be in the IWM here. And I think that hint was essentially today with the move in which it saw. So tomorrow, my game plan here, under 171.23s for the IWM. I like this on a pullback into 167.79s, and I think that's going to end up being a pretty decent spot here for a pullback in the IWM kind of across the board. And where I think that ultimately kind of pulls us back to and leads us to in the Qs is going to be down here towards 362.03s. Now, with the Qs, there is one little kind of caveat to this. It could possibly trade up to 373.41s first. And that's the question is, how big of a rally can we expect from here before getting that 362.03s here? So those are the levels. Those are the things in which I'm watching, kind of the game plans and the thought processes behind what I'm building here going into tomorrow. Again, if none of these scenarios ends up setting up, maybe we get a big gap up, then potentially that is a short as well. If we get a big gap down, that's potentially a long, right? So depending on where we're at in the morning, we'll write that up, we'll plan that out. And if nothing comes through and we need more data on the charts or they're not super clean, then we're just going to sit on hands here because we do have some earnings names coming up for the rest of this week. And after the move from last week, we very well could consolidate and see a lot of choppy action like we did today. So if you struggled today inside of this action right through here for the first 2.5 hours of the day, then keep that in mind, keep that in check. Don't ruin your week here. Chances are you probably had a pretty decent week last week, and you don't want to really give that back. So anyways, that's what I got for tonight's free video. Take care, hope it helps, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.